and welcome to SGF Local Matters, a podcast about your beloved city of Springfield and the stories behind the people who make it great. I'm your co-host, Cora Scott, the Director of Public Information and Civic Engagement for the city of Springfield, Missouri, your local government. I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming our co-host, the Honorable Mayor of Springfield, Ken McClure. Welcome.
Cora, hello. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am excited. We've been talking about doing this for, 2 years anyway.
We have, yes.
And to see that we're finally getting it off the ground and talking about such a enjoyable topic. I'm excited about doing this, and I think this is going to be something that our community is really going to appreciate.
Well, very good. We appreciate you taking this on top of your busy schedule, but you're right, it is something positive to talk about. You deal with your fair share of crises on a daily basis.
That's right.
So this is nice. So we decided to start this podcast to shine a light on some of our community's great people and places, and maybe have a deeper conversation about ideas, excitement, even questions about our fair city. So what do you hope to accomplish with this?
Well, we're entitling this SGF Local Matters, and there's a lot of insinuation that you can make out of that, the local matters part of it. But as you look about, Springfield is such a vibrant and varied community. And we've got so many people that contribute in so many different ways to their talents, their resources, their experience. And not a lot of people in the community know about that. And so you put all of that together and then you say, we really are a very well-rounded community.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I would hope to accomplish is to visit with folks in our community, to have an opportunity for the community to get to know them, to learn about them, but also say, this is pretty good in Springfield. I want to take advantage of this. So those are among the things that I would hope to accomplish.
Very great. Well, this is also going to be a lot of fun.
It will be.
We're going to do it once a month to start, and who knows, if we're very talkative, maybe we'll go once a week. It just depends.
It will be very, very interesting.
So you and I sat down and we made a list, and within 5 minutes, we had a list of over 100 people that we wanted on this podcast.
We did.
But one person kept rising to the top of who would be fun and who would be like the best person to be on our inaugural podcast. So it's a person who shares a desire to make Springfield better. It's Mark Hecquet, President and CEO of the Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm not going to lie, I wanted you on here also because of your accent.
Well, and let me say before you start talking, it's very obvious when people hear you talk, you're not from here. I love to hear your accent. It's just lilting. It has that nice, pleasant, soothing sound about it. So I think that's a real attribute. So I enjoy that immensely.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And then obviously it's an honor to be here. Now I feel more pressure because I've told you.
You have to sound good as well.
Well, I've got the accent, and that is obviously being from England. But now you told me of the list of 100, I had gravitated to number one. So I
pressure's on.
Better not mess this up. And I'm so excited. And it's a pleasure to be here. And obviously, as you know, I've moved to Springfield a little over a year ago, and I'm excited to be here and chat about that.
And it is a year, but it's just a year. But on the other hand, it's gone very quickly, and I've been so impressed with how you become acclimated very, very quickly into the community, knowledgeable on so many aspects of that, and you've attained that fairly soon in your tenure here. So that speaks so well.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for the kind words. I would, as we talk about local matters, that is a reflection of Springfield that has really embraced me as someone who has come in from, I'm from England, but I've lived in America now for 35 years. I'm a citizen and all those kind of things, except for the accent I can't seem to lose. But, moving to Springfield, I was embraced by the community from the very first moment. So it's actually been very easy, and that is something that has made my job very easy, and how I've been able to, immerse myself into the Springfield community, understand the culture a little bit, is a really something that Springfielders may not realize about their own community, and which is very endearing and something I talk a lot about as I travel around the U.S.
Well, you bring a fresh set of eyes to our community, and that's always welcome. What brought you to America?
So, again, it's a really good question, and I wish we had longer. I would give you the very, very long answer to that question.
Maybe we'll have part two of the SGF Local.
Just an insight into my personality a little bit. I am very much someone who likes to throw caution to the wind. I don't.
I love that
I
about
like
him.
to, and I've learned that things typically happen for the right reasons, and
I
good
agree.
things typically
I
happen
agree.
when you do
Absolutely.
step out of your comfort zone. Well, in England, I was, living my life and going through the education system, and it's a little bit different, and how you go to university or college for that matter, and through that process, you have to take it. They're called A-levels. Well, my best friend and I decided to go on vacation, and we were young, 17-year-olds, and figured, what should we do? We go to America for 6 weeks. Well, through that visit, we visited universities and colleges, and they're, as you well know, they're very manicured and nice and big and grandiose. And somehow through the conversation, someone said to us, you should come and study in America. Well, I actually took that to heart.
Nice.
And came home, and I really, looking back, had my first parental lesson. Because I got off the plane and told my dad, I'm going to study in America. And he says, no, you're not. So of course, as a young, rebellious 17-year-old, of course I'm going to study in America. So I went on this journey and literally went through this whole process and ended up at University of Kentucky. As a funny, I knew nothing about University of Kentucky. My only reference to University of Kentucky at the time was Kentucky Fried Chicken. That was it.
Those two really aren't tied together. You've probably learned that since. Yeah.
No, and I loved every moment of it. As someone who's a Londoner, I'll never forget flying into Lexington Airport, looking out, seeing grass fields and horses, thinking this has to be the worst decision ever. But I loved it. And the reason I share that story and why it's really important is I felt the same when I first landed in Springfield. When I first came for my first visit, I felt the same
glad to hear that.
embrace in the community and the things I really love about where I want to live. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Fascinating story.
Shout out to University of Kentucky, my good friends Herb and Janet Dankert, maybe the most rabid Wildcat fans that I know, but you also have a big history with University of Kentucky. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I went to University of Kentucky, did my undergraduate, did my master's degree there, worked in athletics, loved it. I bleed blue all day. I'm sorry, Missouri Tigers fans. Now you're in the SEC. I know I live in Springfield now. I will always be a Kentucky fan. And I married my wife.
Well, of course, Missouri State is our school here.
Yes.
Well, that's true, but there are a lot of Tiger fans.
So
Yeah,
you can be I think a legitimate Kentucky fan here.
that's right.
That is
And
true.
still support the Bears.
Yes.
And but my wife was at Kentucky too. She's a Kentucky alum too, and she was a gymnast there. And now the legacy continues because my son now goes to University of Kentucky. So I might challenge your friends.
You might have to challenge the Dankerts.
We really
then.
do bleed blue in my family.
We can totally arrange that challenge and see how that turns out. But one thing I liked about you right off, Mark, was just your excitement and willingness to try new things and think big and outside the box. And have your ideas been accepted in Springfield? How's that going?
Again, a lot of people ask me, like, I lived in Ohio for 20 years, and people, well, why are you moving to Missouri? And, in light of what I do professionally, working in the travel space, one of the things I'm a huge believer and obviously a proponent of travel. And why I love that is because people's cultures are very different, but in appreciation for different cultures, you learn so much. And I've come to Missouri, and the reason I'm very excited is because, first of all, I always, coming to America for me was a really big deal, and I value that every moment I'm here, and I find it so fascinating being here. And coming to Missouri, yeah, it's very similar to Ohio, but it's very different, and I love that. So I find it very positive, and the Springfield community, Missouri community is very welcoming, and and the selling point of me coming here was not, I won't tell my board this, it wasn't necessarily the job. It was the community, it was the people. It was the people. And I came, I visited, and I went home, and I told my wife, and she came and visited, and I said, look, I just want you to just have a moment. And we have this very strange game, because we travel and a lot, that we call it dining roulette, where we go to a different city, and we will actually ask a local to tell us where to go. So we'll go to...
Springfieldians love to give their opinions on where to eat.
Which was great. We went to the first place, and the server literally sat down and spent half an hour with us, just talking to us.
Awesome.
Welcome us. And that is a trait that you can't really put on paper. It's just a very intangible that is not everywhere in the world. I come from a big city, which is not like that. but that is something is a huge plus for our community, and I felt, as I mentioned earlier, welcomed here, even though I sound different. You know, I do sound. I know I can't get rid of the accent.
Well, Mark, the Convention and Visitors Bureau is just a key part of our community.
Yeah.
But probably a lot of folks don't know exactly what you do. Talk a little bit about the role of the CVB in Springfield and the surrounding area.
Yeah. So you're right, Mayor. I've come in to lead the Convention and Visitors Bureau. In its simplest terms, the Convention Bureau is really, how I explain it, is a facet of economic development. We just use travel and tourism as our mechanism. So we're looking at the entire scope of travel and tourism. And people typically think travel and tourism is just someone going on vacation, or they're going to the beach or the mountains, etc. But it's far greater than that. That is a segment, the leisure side of it, but there's groups, conventions, and there's development. How do we develop our community to continue to drive visitors into our community? The question is, why do we do that? Why is that, and let me put this in its simplest terms, is Springfield as a community has almost 6,500 hotel rooms. So we have a lot of hotels. And if you think on an average year, those are filled 60% of the year. So you can just think on scope that every day of the week, we have thousands of visitors in our community that are coming here to visit. We have a wealth of attractions. But why is it really important? It comes down to the economics of it and what the visitor does to help continue to stimulate the Springfield economy. They go to our restaurants, our attractions, our hotels, they spend money on our gas stations, all those things. It is a huge boom for our community. We estimate that it's an over $1 billion industry in Springfield. And the beautiful thing about a visitor is they come and they leave. They come, they spend their money and they leave, which is really good. So our job and our team's job is to continue to fuel that fire and continue to find new ways to bring new visitors in and continue to grow our hotel community, grow more visitors, more attractions, and tell the world. Really, I've come in, and what I want to do is share the world how great Springfield is. Tell that story. Get people looking at Springfield, because there is a really positive story to be told here.
Talk a little bit, Mark, about sports tourism. I know that's a big emphasis of yours, and sports is so important here in the Springfield area. Of course, we have the Cardinals. We have a Division I set of teams at Missouri State, D2 with Drury. We have Evangel. Strong programs athletically in our public schools, but we also have a very engaging soccer program, sports programs through various facilities. But how do we capitalize on that? It's already strong, but it can be stronger, in my opinion. And so how do we do that?
I tell my team a lot, let's talk about the why we do it. Why do we do sports tourism, and talk about how things work. So obviously, sports tourism has really been a boon, because back in, if you think about when economic really hard times, recessions and things like that, the one thing that travelers never gave up was going with their children to sporting events. You were not going to miss your 12-year-old's one chance to play in there. Now, you would sacrifice everything else. So what that created in the travel space was this realization, like, well, business travel is going down, international travel is going down, but this sports one, this youth sports market, is a very lucrative, that can resist this variation. So this comes down to now, okay, so how do you become successful in that? Obviously, there are a lot of parameters that come in. My background is I ran a CVB for 18 years. We had a huge sports tourism. It was basically, we were all in a bag of chips, so to speak. We invested very, very heavily into that market. And it all really started with the venues. But what's really important with that is people look at a soccer field or a rugby field and they think the grass is green. But the reality is sports tourism, in light of the why, is now international. We are competing with every little community known to man.
Absolutely.
So that is one of the things, and I will say to you, Mayor, that yes, Springfield does have venues. But I will say that today, I'm not sure we compete as well as how other communities are continuing to evolve.
You know, I'm glad to hear you say that. You and I have talked about that. We have such a potential, in my opinion, and it's an unrealized potential,
Absolutely.
I think. And so we need to build upon that. It needs to become a community asset. So many times you hear parents, well, I'm taking my kids to Kansas City or to Tulsa or somewhere for a tournament of some sort, and that's great, but we want people to come here for those types of things. So I really appreciate your thoughts on that, Mark.
Beneficial for both the local athletes as well as people traveling from other communities as well.
But one of the reasons I did come here is when I further looked into that, our segment is the opportunity, you know, and you know, very quickly, you just come out the airport, you see the beautiful Bobby Allison complex right there, which has huge potential. And obviously you've got Lake Country, you do have a D1 school, D2, NIA. We have a very robust infrastructure. And of course, I was well aware of where City Council was in terms of using some of its funds to elevate its venues to make them competitive, to elevate the soccer fields, to elevate the softball. So now when we have the other pieces, accessibility, we have the hotel packages, we have the restaurants, all that to support, but the venues just weren't quite there. And I'm hoping, and I'm pretty positive. You just got the new arena at the fairgrounds where this weekend we have USA Wrestling coming in with 2,000
that's
kids.
incredible, and to hear the stories of how you've been of help to them and filling these vacant dates, and then arena football is scheduled to come later in the spring.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Well, that'll be
so fun.
Will be a great addition.
The
to the community.
Lunkers, right?
The Lunkers, the Lunkers, correct. But the new facility at the fairgrounds is just amazing. 6,000 seats, I believe, and what will be happening out there. So. We have an unrealized potential, I think, and it just fits in with the old, council has several priorities. One of those is economic vitality, another one's quality of place.
Those two things merge nicely.
Both of those fit together,
Yes.
They sure do.
Well, the other thing that's really good with the sports tourism piece is, sometimes it is a perfect merge of visitor and locals. If you want your children to play on the best fields.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, let's create the best fields. And then, so you have a mechanism to use them, but yet let's not think of the way we need to pay for them, which is obviously typically through the visitor and events and things like that. So, I think, the enhancements going out of Lake Country and the Killian complex, that's going to be good locally. The locals will get to now play on these venues that perhaps they were having to go to Kansas City or Tulsa or other communities around the country. So there is a really, it's just not all tourism centric. There is a very local, and if you look at it further, I wear a very tourism hat, but I've just moved here, and those things matter, right? They do matter when you look at things for your children and what are the other pieces. And as a parent, I'm a very athletic person. My wife is. That's really key to us to see what the venues are. So very excited.
And you want activities to take your friends and family to who come visit. And that makes it really fun, too, to take them out to baseball games, say at Hammonds Field, or a soccer tournament. So that's a part of it, too. Mayor, the city and city council has invested a lot of funds in this sports infrastructure. Do you see that continuing, that kind of support for this type of investment?
The support is clearly there. As Mark referenced, as we went through the ARPA funding and how we best utilize that, but we're looking at the needs, and Cooper's a great example of that, but not the only one. We just went through the purchase, it's almost a year ago now, of Hammonds Field.
That's right, Valentine's Day it was
official. Which was critical for the city to maintain a top quality minor league organization here through the Springfield Cardinals. And our council, you're well aware, Cor, but we worked for a long time to try to work through that. But it was very clear, and so came through with a long-term commitment that the Springfield Cardinals will be here. Council was behind that solidly. And as we get in to look at some of the Cooper funds that have been there, and I want to give a shout out too to our local legislative delegation.
Oh my goodness, yes.
With appropriation of some state funds, and so it's the real partnership. And as we were talking out at the new Wilson Arena just a few days ago, state funding, county funding, city funding, all of that work together, the partnership. And so you see that. So I see, based on what I know from my colleagues in city council, but strong support. And it goes to what Mark was talking about. We want to be the destination, the location where people come in on the weekend for whatever events may be there.
Speaking of the Springfield Cardinals, will we see you like throwing out the first pitch at the
Well, we'll
first
see.
game in April?
We'll see. But I have done that 4 times. And the key, though, is I need about 3 days to warm up with my grandson. Because you don't want to, it's a great honor, but you don't want to embarrass yourself.
Well, it's a good thing that your grandson, Andrew, is a baseball player.
He is all baseball all the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, he takes after his grandfather. That's a neat thing.
We used to go, and it goes to what Mark was talking about, where parents bring their kids, but Andrew and I take him, and he just studies the game. I mean, he just watches all the little intricacies about that, and so things I used to tell him, he now tells me. So
awesome.
But that goes to the whole culture thing of this, and really what's important to the community. Let's talk a little bit too. We are a well-rounded community. When I talk about the assets that we have, but if you like the arts, you've got a great symphony, a ballet, a little theater, a regional opera. How do all those fit in, Mark? So you come here, you're a sports fan, but hey, got a good symphony concert tonight. I want to go do that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's coming to Springfield. It is a city, and it has city amenities, and that's really important. A funny story. My wife loves Hamilton, and
yes.
Who doesn't love Hamilton? My goodness.
the English guy.
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be back and all that. So,
I'll be back. That King's number that you have to admit, it's pretty awesome.
But my wife has wanted for years to go to Hamilton, and
you resisted.
And we love a good music. Love it. We love the theatre. We love it. And never Hamilton. So I've moved here in January. Guess what? Hamilton is here.
Did you go see it?
I went twice.
Nice.
But, I think that sometimes people look at these components and don't know their role or why they are really significant to the fabric of our community. And again, to your point, I come in from living in Cincinnati, obviously London, Lexington. I've lived in a lot of cities. And even I can allude it to the Cardinal Stadium. What would Springfield like with an empty Cardinal Stadium? What would it look like if we had no little theater or no symphony?
That makes me sad.
There are a lot of communities who would die for that. They would bend over backwards to have a symphony or the ability to bring a Broadway series into their community. Why is that in my space, in the tourism space? It's an entertainment option. It is an option. It drives people. I watched Hamilton. I sat next to a person, and I'm like, where are you from? They're like, St. Louis. They came from St. Louis to watch, and they were in for like 2 or 3 days to experience Hamilton. So
I hope they tried some of our fabulous restaurants while they were here.
I didn't get that. I was really new, so I was just like, and they might have thought, why is the weird English guy asking me where I'm from?
We have way better restaurants than St. Louis. Let's just put that out there.
I view, people. I love the arts. They are a very important part of our tourism piece. Yet people come for it. It's an option, and it's one of those things that even if we just allude it to the sports tourism piece, because it has become so competitive, and the fields can be we can build 10 turf fields. Well, there's 10 turf fields here. Well, now people start looking what else is there to do in their community. And entertainment becomes the next thing. Well, if you're really isolated and there's nothing to do, and let's say, we can go to the theater tonight, or it's a really important.
Even better if they can walk there or make it easy to get to their destination.
And
for sure.
I think what's really I like about the arts community, they're very connected with each other, and they work very well together. And it's something, even from the art downtown, from the sculptures, it is something that I love about the community, and it's really a very important piece, and I am a user of it as well. So
We've experienced that great collaboration with your mayor's tree lighting holiday show. We just have to put out the call, and we have more people than we can book want to participate and entertain our community. And great talent.
Yeah.
There's something in the water here, guys. I mean, you know, we all know that we have pumped out some great celebrities over the years, but I have to give a shout out to our most recent famous actor, and that's Kaylee Spaney. So she was nominated for a Golden Globe. She didn't quite get it. She was up against some heavy hitters, but shout out to Springfield Little Theater and their training program. So some of these people, if they desire to go on and become full-time movie actors, they do quite well.
Well, on that very topic, you know, as we're talking about local matters, what I've noticed is sometimes locals forget about what they have in their own community.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I would really like, you know, if anyone's listening, have you been downtown? Have you been to a show? Have you seen what's going on? Have you been to any of the new restaurants? I find that sometimes as a local, you get very pigeonholed in your life. You just go to work, you come home, you go to Hy-Vee.
We get so into our daily lives that we forget the amenities we have right here.
And I think, you know, get out and try something different. You know, you might really, you know, you might see Springfield in a different light. And I think that's, if you ask why I'm so happy and so excited, because I see all the great things. And I love all those great things. And when I talk to people, they say, oh yeah, I forget I should go out to the caves, or I haven't been out to Wonders of Wildlife recently, or I haven't been to the zoo, or I haven't gone and seen a show, or, well, they're all here, and they're all really important to us.
I was just going to say something that's near and dear to you, but the Route 66 birthplace here is key, and we're coming up in just 2 short years on the centennial. We were talking about that here just a few days ago. But it's been amazing to me how we've been able to capture that and make the point that, yes, that telegram that established the Route 66 designation came from here. But that ties in all along Route 66, the state's involved. You're very involved.
Yes, Missouri Commission to celebrate that centennial.
And so all of, you know, we're going to be, and I know from where your offices are, people will stop there inquiring about where's Route 66.
One of the very positives that I was unaware of is the amount of international visitors every day in our office who have flown over here and are driving through Springfield on the Route 66 sort of pilgrimage, we would say. I mean, it's not just UK, it's all over the world, every day in Springfield.
And a lot of people don't know that. So
no, I mean,
people listening in don't understand
thousands
that
over
impact.
the year. And it's something that with the centennial coming up in 2026, one of the things that our organization is really targeted to, we need to enhance that experience leading up to the centennial. It's something that is very unique to Springfield, how we can say we're the birthplace. And truthfully, as I'm a very truthful kind of guy, we don't do very well right now. And I think that experience can be much better, but take it from nostalgic to current day. How do we do that in a way that brings nostalgia and current day and combines it in a very cool manner? And then expand that international presence, because if we view what we're about as we want to tell the world about us. Well, we've got these people here today. We want them going home telling them how great Springfield was.
Absolutely, they have to have a great experience. So, love partnering with you on that, Mark, and love your excitement around
You're leading
Route
the charge.
66.
You're leading your charge on that.
I'll never get caught on that, but you're right. It is about the future. What is the symbolism of the open road and freedom and moving forward and taking it into the future, not just so rooted in the past, honoring the past. So we are going to ask everyone who does this podcast a series of questions. We're calling it 7 and 7, and it's the perfect way to conclude our podcast. So this is rapid fire, Mark, so just answer off the top of your head. What is your favorite word?
Passion.
What is your least favorite word?
Fine.
What sound or noise do you love?
My children laughing.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The alarm clock.
Excellent.
What makes you happy?
Working out.
What ticks you off?
I have to be careful here.
The mayor is sitting right here.
No.
Just, it's all good.
Slow car drivers.
Slow car drivers. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would love to be a trial lawyer.
Interesting. I could see you doing that. Thank you for joining us for our first inaugural SGF Local Matters podcast, and we'll be coming back at you in the next month. Thank you, Mayor McClure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Hecquet, for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to SGF Local Matters wherever you get your podcasts.